Hey guys, welcome back to World of Warships. Today we're again looking at the Sicilia. I didn't intend to make a video so soon on this ship. I do want to play it more. I've played it a bunch, but considering this ship will be available for research points here, I should probably give you some more thoughts on it. And I've run into a major problem with this ship, a massive one, almost a deal breaker, in my opinion. Check out the turret angles here. We have 22-degree turret angles facing forward, all right? 22, 23 degrees. Should mean we have amazing armor. But as soon as we get within 10 kilometers, check out what happens. Our rear turrets can't fire. It's 40 degrees. They can't fire. 44 degrees, 45 degrees, 46. 48-degree turret angles below 10 kilometers. That is ridiculous, okay? GK has 45 or 46 degree turret angles, and it's a meme. It's so bad. But at least with the GK, you get a functional turtleback that is going to protect you. This one, not always going to prevent you from taking citadels. So if we take a look at these turrets, what is blocking them at closer ranges? Well, it's going to be those American secondaries they added. On that third turret, that's what's blocking it. But notice the fourth turret just doesn't have anything blocking it, but it still can't fire. Yeah, that is also pretty ridiculous. Maybe a bug, maybe just like a poor copy-paste job of Colombo and then adding these turrets, but it seems like we should be able to fire our rear turret, and that would be a pretty massive buff to this ship and would help it be actually usable. I think this ship is bad. I know that might sound crazy. There's a lot of hype around this ship, and maybe I'm going to get some flack for this take, but I think this is a really, really bad ship. I think this is essentially Colombo without the OP SAP main guns, worse turret angles, and that's about it. The SAP secondaries are fine, and they're kind of interesting to use, but you don't have improved accuracy on them. And as soon as you're getting into range to use them, suddenly you just can't use half of your main guns. So then you're stuck with just your front guns only into people. And then if you try and kite away from people, suddenly you have this awful, awful shot trap of an armor scheme that just eats so much pen damage whenever you're kiting away from someone. So you have to be bow into people if you're going to be tanking any sort of damage. And then you have these just really rough turret angles. It's so difficult to use at close range. 16 shells, you're going to do some damage. I have some dev strikes with this ship. It certainly can do some damage. But I did not have a single game over 200k yet. I tried pushing in. I tried 3 or 4 different types of builds. Some totally focused on secondary. Some totally focused on main guns and tanking. Others focused on just maximizing the duration of the smoke. It's ridiculous. We get a nice hit in onto the Monarch there, and then the next salvo into the Hindenburg does 0. This is an RNG fest with awful turret angles. Look at how broadside we have to go to shoot a Hindenburg at close range. It is ridiculous. I might be a little too passionate about this right now. I should kind of chill out a bit, but I want to get this across to you guys when this ship comes out tomorrow. I guess today for you guys if it's on NA. I believe it is in the armory on the patch day. I'm actually not entirely sure about that. I hope it is. That's the whole reason of making this video today. But I don't think you should get it, because Ohio is your option. The competitor to Sicilia is Ohio. Arguably the best battleship in the entire game, no matter if you want to be brawling secondaries or if you want to play mid-range and just destroy everything, dev strikes. It's just so strong. This is not that. This is not it. I think maybe Colombo is just going to be a better ship once we get to see the improved turret angles and the slight increase to Sigma on that ship. Because as soon as we have SAP shells, then all of a sudden the dispersion isn't nearly as important, because SAP is kind of an overpowered ammo type that just allows us to do a ton of damage no matter where we hit on a ship. Whereas AP, we certainly need to be hitting weak points. The HE we will look at towards the end of this video, but I really wanted to focus on the armor piercing. There are good salvos in this video, okay? I'm certainly going to show you the best of this ship that I managed to play in the last day or two with Sicilia. I've had some good games, but nothing over 200k, which I'm bringing up just because a tier 10 battleship, I should easily be able to get over 200k in it. especially with some of the matches I've had where we're not dealing with carriers or subs a lot of the time. I'm allowed to push in, get close to people with a brawling battleship like this. It should do well, and yet I'm really struggling with this ship. And I think a lot of it comes down to those turret angles, man. I just can't get all the guns off on someone at closer ranges without just fully exposing my ship and taking a ton of damage. So either I'm deciding to just lose 50% of my firepower at close range, which is kind of required because the dispersion is so bad on this ship that we need that just volume of fire to make up for it, or I am just going to expose myself and take a ton of damage and die rather quickly at these closer ranges. Sure, we can use smokes. Thank you to this Yu Yang here for smoking me up. But I could have used my fuel smoke here to smoke myself up like this and just use the secondaries. The secondaries are okay. They don't have good accuracy is the problem. When they hit, they do some pretty nice damage. Sap is like that. It's really, really nice. Assuming the ship isn't perfectly angled too. I have an example where a Des Moines is perfectly bow in, and my secondaries do, I think, 0 damage. Here's a great example. Don't even get any damage on that Yamato. Needed like 1,000 damage to finish him off there. Don't get anything on him. And part of that, I think, is I only got my front guns off on him. Ibuki here coming around the corner, and secondaries opening up on him. That's fine. This is a full secondary build, I think is what this one is at. So maybe we shouldn't be as reliant on the main guns then. But the secondaries, the accuracy is just not there, man. I don't think it's necessarily worth it, even with the shell type being so good. Get okay dispersion and 10,000 damage. Don't kill him. That's fine. 165k, 4 kills. That's still a pretty good game. But again, I was looking for something special, right? Like, that's what I wanted to do. I actually wanted to wait with this video. I had an insane Montana game during the bounty event where I tank with like 5 million potential damage. It's like 260k. I wanted to have a really fun time showing you guys that video today, but I figured I should probably let you know my thoughts on this ship before you end up buying it or trying to get it. Here we go. This is the game. Des Moines bow into us. Just slap the secondaries on him, right? And then we'll deal with the Rhode Island with our main guns. Well, maybe not. And as soon as we're within 10 kilometers of this Rhode Island, I can't shoot these rear turrets, man. I just can't. It's so sad. It is so sad. I think it would be better, you know, even if they can't give the third turret the same angles. 22 degrees is kind of ridiculous, actually, for turret angles, but so is 48. I think if the last turret, that fourth turret, could fire at that 22 degrees, I wouldn't be complaining about this so much. But it's painful, man. It's so painful. As soon as you're only on the front guns, it feels so bad. Sure, you do have a better reload than Colombo, but it's pretty rough. Here, I'm going to try and get the rear turrets on, man, to try and finish off this Rhode Island. Because I need to deal with him before I get caught in an even bigger crossfire. Vermont. Satsuma is also going to be looking at us soon. 5 bounces there. Pretty unfortunate at that angle, but we do manage to finish him off and take 18k for our troubles from our Rhode Island front guns there. Just brutal. But that's okay. Moving on, pushing up. I tried to play very aggressive in this ship because I thought that's where it's going to shine, and it certainly can. Look at that. 50k into an Owami, and then the secondaries get to go to work. That's excellent, right? But I had to show so much broadside. I would love to see them change this ship to not have 22-degree turret angles at range and 48 degrees at close range. I would love to see it be 35 degrees all the time or something. I think that would just be far more comfortable to play. Because as it stands, it's just miserable at close range, which is where we want to be. If you're a ship with a fuel smoke, sap secondaries with poor dispersion, but obviously a really good shell type, 16 guns that have poor dispersion, but that's a huge amount of volume. When you're at closer ranges, that's going to do a ton of damage. You want to be at close range with this ship. Everything about this ship is screaming to me, close range brawling battleship, right? And then as soon as you get there, you can't use half of your guns because of these turret angles. It's just, it's tough, man. It's really, really tough. Here I'm going to die, I think. No, I live a little bit longer here. We get to our smoke. But we have to wait until the radar is down. But I want you to notice what this Vermont is going to do to us in a little bit here. He is going to, I think he's going to do 15k to us while we're perfectly angled away from him with only 6 shells, okay? It's not even his full salvo. We're going to get proxied by this Des Moines. the carrier's coming over, so we're gonna die. But notice how much damage he's gonna do to us. Also, why did our secondaries fire there? They just tried to randomly shoot the Demoy. I don't understand that, but oh well. That's that can happen. Here it comes, okay? This is only 6 shells, okay? Yeah, that's like nearly 15k damage at that angle. That's what happens when you're trying to kite with this ship. And then the carrier's here, so we're dead. But that's important to know, okay? So you need to not be kiting as much with this ship. I don't think it's going to do quite as well. You're going to take a lot of damage into that weird shot trap thing. Okay, moving on. I'm complaining a lot because I had a really, really rough day playing this ship. I only played this ship, and I only had a few good salvos, and I'm certainly going to show you those. One, of course, was that Monarch, and here's 2 more. One of them on a Minotaur, which is probably one of the easiest ships to dev strike in the game, but hey, it still did it, right? We need to count that, count our wins when we get them. We'll take a dev strike there for sure. That feels pretty good. And by the way, I've moved on to a accuracy build here. This is reload mod and accuracy. So I think that was the last game as well. So I swapped away from the secondaries because I just found them not doing that much damage. Let's see what the main guns can do. And it was a pretty decent start, I'm not gonna lie to you. That was a Minotaur gone, and then we get a pretty quick flank here and catch out this Malta, and he's full health. I mean, that's pretty nice. I mean, that feels pretty good, I gotta say. So I was getting hopeful again. I was getting very hopeful again after this. Okay, maybe we can build main guns on this ship. Maybe that is going to be the play. And it did all right. It did all right, but it really comes down to the turret angles again. So I think the whole point of this ship is actually not to use the secondaries at all, even though that's kind of the gimmick, right? What's the difference between Sicilia and Colombo? Well, Sicilia gets sap secondaries that should do some pretty good work at close range instead of these sap on the main guns. But considering how bad the turret angles are, I think you're actually making your ship worse by putting yourself within 10 kilometers of people. At least that's kind of how I'm feeling after just full send. Look at these games, man. I am just full sending it into the enemy team. Like, we're 2-3 minutes into this game, and I'm nearly at the enemy's half of the map, right? Like, this is not how you normally play tier 10, certainly. But with this smoke, we can get away with it. And this game is actually a really cool example of just the ridiculous pushing plays you can make in a ship with a fuel smoke like this, especially one that lasts longer, right? We do have a longer fuel smoke than the Colombo. It lasts longer. It's pretty fun to mess around with. Here, I think I go in a little too early. I'm a little over-aggressive again, but I mean, that's kind of the theme these days, right? Just trying to make some interesting plays happen. Just full send it into like 2 destroyers here, as well as a sub on my left flank here. Not the best idea. I should have waited until my smoke was up, because you're going to see what happens if you're forced to turn away, or you try to turn away while you don't have your fuel smoke available. It doesn't go very well. I'm trying to bait this Vermont shot before I turn, and so here we go. Vermont does take his shot. We're at a 30-ish degree angle. Still take 18k. That's not great, but it's certainly not like 40k or something he could have done to our broadside. And then I elect to turn. Yamato decides to shoot a little early, so that shouldn't do quite as much damage to us. Look at that, 4k, nice. Armor is holding, but the last Yamato certainly waited and was patient. Good job to him. That's what you're supposed to do. And we're gonna take some damage here. If I had waited a little bit when pushing in, I probably would have not taken all that damage. A misplay. And I certainly did not play this ship perfectly while I was testing it and playing it over the last couple of days, but it was a rough experience, man, especially when I'm considering that you could just get an Ohio instead of this ship, right? Maybe I wouldn't be as hard on this ship if it wasn't for research points. If this ship was coal, I would probably be wholeheartedly recommending it, okay? I'm probably being too hard on it. I've been very critical, complaining too much about this ship in this video. I apologize, okay? I don't actually want to just complain about things, but I do want to give you a realistic perspective of what this ship is like to play, and that I didn't really enjoy it. The reason I would wholeheartedly recommend it if it was coal is I don't think there's a lot of great coal ships available, especially coal battleships. There's just really not many of them available that are that good, and this one would be pretty decent. A unique playstyle and interesting. But because you're up against Ohio? Yeah, that's pretty rough. Okay, we're on like a sliver of health here. Managed to get our last heal in. I ate a torpedo and barely survived. But I want to show you that this ship can live some of these situations reasonably well. We have to deal with this Vermont again, and fortunately for us, he's not going to do too much damage. He got a dispersion bug there. I don't know. But regardless, armor holds up. He misses. Dispersion allows us to live. And we're going to live a reasonable amount of time here. And this could be an interesting tactic to run, is just sprint at people with your smoke and just secondary them, right? Like, maybe that's an interesting idea that maybe this ship is going to be good with. But I did try to do it a little bit, and I just found that the secondaries aren't quite accurate enough to do that. They're just not going to give you that consistent output of damage. When they hit, they are pretty good. But I've found that without the improved accuracy, it's kind of rough with these secondaries. And they don't actually have the best fire rate either. If I'm going to run a secondary battleship, I mean, Schlieffen, obviously, but even things like Ohio and a GK, Preußen, these kinds of things, when I'm within these sorts of ranges with those ships, I am doing much, much more damage, right? I felt like I was putting a ton of effort and concentration and focus in to get within these close ranges where theoretically the ship should be shining, and I just wasn't getting the results out of it that I would be hoping for, and especially when comparing it to something like an Ohio, which is the comparison point. Even though it is arguably an unfair comparison just because Ohio is so strong, they're the same resource type, again, and that's why I am comparing those two. At close range, though, look at that. We get some nice damage in on that Alsace, finishing him off from low health. And here we go. Now we're just going to sit in our smoke for the next 40 seconds or so, and we're just going to secondary these guys and get some hits and some damage, and it's decent. But you're not going to get fires out of these guns, so they do need to do that extra alpha damage, where an Ohio, even Schlieffen IFHE secondaries can get some fires, these kinds of things, just add on to the damage. And it's pretty good at closer ranges, but as you get out to farther ranges, it certainly drops off on the damage. And you want to be going after battleships, right? Cruisers are okay to hit with these secondaries, but DDs especially, man, it is a very large dispersion pattern, let's just say. Okay, now I'm going to turn in here, actually, because I'm just assuming that I'm dead, and I'm hoping that this Yamato is going to make a mistake and expose his cheek citadel. I'm going to get one last shot into them this game, and I'm going to hope that we can at least, maybe not dev strike him, but get a few citadels. At these ranges, these angles, I'm hoping for that. And we get 8,000 damage. Yeah, a little disappointing, Keep in mind, I've had a few dev strikes in this video, okay? So the guns can work. They just don't always. It's a bit more RNG than I personally would like. And when you're running something like AP, you do need to be hitting those citadels for the damage to come through. If I was in a Colombo, the sap would just annihilate these people, right? So I'm actually, while playing Sicilia, I started to get more interested in playing Colombo again. So today's Tuesday, so the patch hasn't actually dropped yet, but I will be playing Colombo with the buffed turret angles and Sigma to bring it up towards where Sicilia is now. And you get sap. So sap with this sort of dispersion could be nuts again. And maybe Columbo's going to be good again. We'll see. Pushing in again, keep in mind, 3 minutes into this match, we are full sending it in here. We're going to go into the A cap and make use of this fuel smoke. These are plays you can make work thanks to this smoke screen. There's a lot of situations on maps where if you're pushing in like this, sure, you're going to be reasonably tanky while you're angled, but then you're forced to turn and go broadside in certain situations. And in this case, if we want to get into the A cap and be somewhat safe using the islands there, well, eventually I'm going to be forced broadside to this Pommern and possibly this Montana as well, because we're going to have to turn left. But with the smoke, we don't have to, right? We can just be undetected when we're making that turn. It's really cool, man. These fuel smokes are really fun to use, and I was really hoping that this ship would be better. And maybe it's just a bug, right? Like, maybe someone from Wargaming's gonna watch this and be like, oh no, we messed up on the model for this ship, and the rear turret, that fourth turret, is supposed to have 22-degree turret angles. And that would honestly help this ship a ton, allowing us to get more firepower at close range, it would feel a lot better, I think. Where either I would get more damage for the same angle, and I'm not taking as much damage while I'm, you know, actually being in a reasonable angle to the enemy ships, or, you know, I actually will take less damage while getting good damage on. I don't know. It's like, it's a really painful thing to go over that broadside at close range. It's really, really painful, man. It's rough in GK. It's one of the reasons GK is so bad. And in a ship like this, it's honestly even worse, in my opinion. So, pretty rough. But hey, we make it into A. Look at that. We're still really healthy. We're going to get, I think, 2 direct hits on this submarine. We, of course, are going to turn away from him, though, because pushing into a sub is just a death sentence. So we're going to try and take a blind shot of HE, we'll see, and then try and avoid these torpedoes that we know are coming. But it's fun, you know, to push this early in. It's fun. It's way more interesting than the boring tier 10 games that often we see. Like, I mean, don't want to just single a guy out, but look at the Thunder on the enemy team, right? He's nearly at the A line just spamming HE back there, okay? Like, that is super common at high tier. I think you've all experienced that as well. It's more interesting when you get to push like this. And the smoke allows you to do that a little bit more. I just think the overall damage output and the effectiveness of the ship at close range is just a massive, massive problem. Okay, I've complained enough, I think. We've had over 20 minutes of me just complaining and ragging on this ship. So I do apologize for that. A few negative videos here. I don't want to just make negative complainy videos. The first impressions didn't go well for the first 2 ships this week, Tianjin and Sicilia, and unfortunately this video is just only confirming that I think Sicilia is really not all that good, but I do want to get this one out. We will have some more positive, more fun videos coming. That Monty video, very excited about, and who knows, maybe Colombo sap is going to be insane. Humphreys here, DD. We only have 8 guns firing at him, and we hit 6. 6 out of 8, man. Like, every once in a while, it shows up and does some pretty good work. A few secondary hits to finish him off. Not bad. But we're still only at, like, 80k damage in this one, right? Like, it's a lot of work to push in and make this thing actually get within these closer ranges to get kind of low damage output. 26k into the Thunder feels pretty good. Getting a Citadel there, at least, is really nice. But again, maybe my expectations are too high, but if I'm this close to people in a Colombo, or sorry, not a Colombo, in a Ohio, in a, even in like a GK or a Preußen, but Schlieffen, the secondaries, we're this close to people, we are going to absolutely smash them and get insane damage numbers. I suppose it's a little harder to get this close in without the smoke, but we can still make a lot of these plays work. Maybe not quite as aggressive as I have been early game, but still, I think we're going to do reasonably well. Got on a triple fire there, barely managed to survive, and again, the smoke keeping us alive, allowing us to sap secondary people out of our smoke screen here is pretty powerful, but not an overpowered gimmick at all. And I don't think this ship is good enough to get as your first research bureau ship. We will look through them, right? We look through the steel battleships. We're going through the steel cruisers once this patch drops, and I've looked through the new stuff. We'll get back to that. We'll get back to the grinding thing on the new account, but it's nice that the Sicilia drops before I'm going to look at the research bureau battleships, because certainly have to rank those at some point. Okay, what happens if you just don't push in? Okay, I wanted to try it, right? What happens if we don't push in? Play at the back, play the boring camping playstyle, and maybe take a look at this high explosive. Well, we're gonna do our best damage. How sad is that, man? I'm pushing in, I'm trying my best to make this ship work. I'm trying so hard to get within secondary range, use the gimmick of the sap secondaries, the fuel smoke, all of it. And then the first game I play with range mod Sicilia, HE spamming from the back of the map, I get my best damage. Man, that's just so sad. But hey, I do have to show it, and this is what this ship can do. And part of what makes me excited to play the Colombo again with this dispersion or Sigma buff, right? Like, that's 11 hits on a Monty. Pretty good HE damage, but that's going to do a ton more with sap. Of course, it won't get the fires, right? When we're kiting like this, we do have to be a little careful about that shot trap, but if we can dodge or just know that where the enemy is shooting at us, try to make him hit our superstructure or the bow of our ship, not the stern, then we should be doing a little bit better. But it's not the perfect dispersion, right? Here we go. Monty, he used his damage control. You know, shades of the Austin video. We're gonna go for all 4 fires, guys. Although this time we just don't land many shells. So, of course, it makes sense we don't get too much of a fire chance there. But that's the dispersion we can expect out of a Sicilia right now, too. So that leads me to believe I want to be closer, right? If we're going to have bad dispersion at range, even with range mod, accuracy mod, all that, I need to be closer range. But then we lose our turn angles, you know? It's weird. I'm not a huge fan of this ship. I personally would not be interested in getting it. I probably will on my main account still. I'll keep trying to make it work. Again, I've only played it a couple days, so maybe this is another situation where I just need to get good or figure out a different play style for it. But yeah, it's been a rough time playing this ship. I haven't had the best time with it, unfortunately. And I was so excited about it too. And maybe that's part of the problem, is I was just like overhyping it to myself, thinking about finally getting the Italian battleship I want to play. The one that doesn't have OP gimmick sap and gets better dispersion on the main guns, but only has AP and HE. I mean, 11k again. Was that 11k again, I think? Somewhere in there. Over 10k and double fire. Like, that's good, man. That's really good. Sap secondaries instead of the useless, like, 90 mil Italian HE secondaries that can't even pen superstructures with IFHE, right? Fuel smoke, sap secondaries, run at people. I'm disappointed. And maybe that's why I'm so negative right now. So maybe I'm a little biased here. I do apologize for skewing this video towards the negative side, maybe. Maybe I'm wrong about this ship. Maybe it's good and I'm just not played it right, or I'm playing poorly and I'm not seeing the upsides, I suppose. But yeah, it's a little disappointing here. So Montana gonna give us some broadside, perhaps. We've been using a lot of the HE early, and perhaps that's conditioned him to think, oh, we're just gonna spam HE at him. Well, we still have some AP. 12 kilometers here. Decent dispersion, looks all right. And we get him. See, I mean, every once in a while, you get that salvo and you think, maybe this thing is gonna be good. Maybe I just need to get within closer ranges. And then the turret angle strike. And I'm harping on that too much, but it is really painful. It is really painful to give that much broadside at close range. It's a massive mistake, usually, if you're giving that much broadside at close ranges. And because the way smoke fire works, right? Maybe, you know, if you're newer to the game, you don't know all the mechanics, let me explain a little bit about smoke fire, right? Maybe you're thinking, hey, just pop your smoke and then shoot your guns out of your main smoke. That way you won't be detected. Unfortunately, well, this was changed a long time ago, but the way the smokes work in this game is anytime you shoot your main guns, you essentially have a gun bloom. And without smoke, that just goes out to your maximum fire range. With smoke, it's calculated based on the gun calibers and other balancing decisions. But with this ship, I think it's like 16 or 17 kilometers is what your detection goes to when you fire your main guns out of your smoke. So you're basically guaranteed to get spotted after firing your main guns in smoke, which is why we're not doing that. And that can be a downside as well at closer ranges like this, when you might think, hey, I'm gonna just smoke in, use the secondaries, and then people give you a juicy broadside or something. And then you're like, am I gonna shoot? Am I not? Is it worth it? It's a tough decision. Oh, I mean, this is kind of funny. Two of the worst turret angled battleships firing at each other at close range. Oh man, it's just such a sad fight where we both just like slap each other for 1 billion damage because we both are just such bad ships at close range. Even though we're supposed to be so good at close range. We're the brawling secondary battleships, GK and Sicilia, and yet we're forced to give flat broadside to shoot each other. It's just a little sad, man. And that was my best damage, 181. Right? Like, maybe my expectations are too high. Maybe I overhyped it for myself, but I'm not a fan of this ship right now. I will keep trying to make it work, though. As for the build here, I'm not sure. Honestly, guys, I've tried a lot. This is a build that I've kind of settled on, trying to take extra heals, still keep secondaries, try and keep our concealment. Turret traverse is very nice, as well as gun feeder if we're trying to use HE a little bit more, which I probably should be a little more against some of the angled targets. But I was trying consumable specialist, right? I mean, let's just reset it and like show you what I have been trying. Consumable specialist, give us back our smoke faster so we can be concealed more often. When our AA is active, give us all our consumables back quicker to give me more smokes and heals quicker, that kind of thing. Obviously take secondaries. I think I was doing this for a little bit. Also preventive maintenance, keep our secondaries alive a little longer. I was trying stuff like that. What else did I try? I think did I try vigilance build as well? I mean, it's weird. It's such a weird ship to play. And I also found I wasn't actually getting 2 million potential damage all that much. How funny is that, right? I wasn't getting 2 million potential damage, so I actually wasn't getting the extra charge out of the heal from this skill. So that's why I swapped to Emergency Repair Expert, because I just wanted to have 5 heals. I don't know, man. It is a weird ship to play, and trying to build it is... I mean, maybe I'm just biased towards the secondaries. Maybe you're just supposed to not run secondaries and just let them do their thing if somebody happens to be within range. But as far as the turret angles go, maybe you're just supposed to never be within 10 kilometers of someone. That way you still have decent firing angles. You know, this turret doesn't block you. It's weird. It's very weird. It's a weird ship to play, and I don't think it's very good, especially compared to Ohio. It's a fine battleship. It can work, but you know, here I was running range mod. That was the last game I played, was that HE one, HE range mod one. But you know, you probably should run main guns, I guess. They want main gun reload and secondaries. Weird. You know, you can't really take smoke generator mod, even though I have tried it just to see what it was like, because then you don't get the benefit on your secondaries, and you don't get the benefit on your aiming. I have a very difficult time understanding this ship, as you can tell. So that's maybe why I'm so negative too. It's like, I want this ship to be good. I want to have fun brawling, and the smoke allows me to get within brawling range faster and easier. And then I get to those ranges where I think, man, I'm about to have a good time. This is excellent. Secondaries, guns, dev strikes, people are forced to go broadside or make mistakes, whatever, when they're in closer ranges because they're just used to sniping, right? And then the ship just doesn't perform once I get to that closer range. So maybe that's the disappointment there. Maybe this is a great ship to learn how to get into closer range. It's more forgiving than in Ohio to push in and brawl with, like getting to that brawling point. Like if you're struggling to actually get within secondary range with something like an Ohio or a Preußen or a GK or whatever, maybe this is a good option, because then you get that get out of jail free card smoke that you can pop if you're in trouble, or you overcommit early and you realize late that maybe I shouldn't have pushed yet. Maybe that's a reason to get this ship, I suppose, but I'm just surprised I don't like it. I'm very surprised I don't like it. But so far, that's the Sicilia, I guess. I will be playing it more. I still haven't played it enough to really give a full review on it or really rate it properly. As you can tell, I'm in this phase of I don't understand it, and I don't like that I'm playing poorly in it and not able to get a good game in it, and that's frustrating, and maybe skewing my take to be more negative than it otherwise would be. My expectations were too high. I want to do good in it. I'm getting into brawls, and it's just not performing. But that's been my experience with the Sicilia so far. Unfortunate experiences, but those are my experiences with it. And there's just flashes of really strong battleship here with the dev strikes, man. It can do, I know it can do it. It's just not consistently given me those good games and good salvos. Can't tie it all together in one match, unfortunately. Not yet. So you will see this ship more on the channel. I want to figure it out. I want to play it. Maybe we're going to get a turret angle buff, or at least allow the fourth turret to fire at closer ranges within 48 degrees. Better than 48 degrees. It's ridiculous. Maybe we'll see that. I hope so. But that's going to do it for today's video. A very long one. A lot of complaining, a lot of whining. I apologize. I don't want to just make videos like that where I'm just complaining the whole time. But that is my experience with it. Now you know so far, and you can make a decision if you want to get this ship or not. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.